Okay, it's starting, yes, good. So on our agenda today, we have the main topic of EU vocabularies or platform and/or catalog of reference data that can also serve the data spaces. We will speak about EU vocabularies, the services that we can provide for data spaces, then some ongoing collaborations with data spaces, as well as some use cases of the reuse or the creation of reference data for them. And then at the end, we will have a part on how AI can enhance EU vocabularies and reference data for different tools and different platforms. So let's move on. Okay, so this is just a small reminder. I know many of you might be already familiar with what we do and who we are, but we are working in the Publications Office of the European Union. We are the official publisher for all EU institutions, bodies and agencies. One of our core activity is the publication of the official journal of the EU, but as well we have a lot of legal resources, for example in EU Lex. Then tenders, procurement data, research data, as well as general publications for education, for example. And then we have a lot of other sites such as the EU is Who or the Interinstitutional Style Guide, which is also part of our sector, and also EU vocabularies, which will be the topic of today. We are based in Luxembourg and we are working in all 24 official EU languages. So this multilingual aspect is quite important in our work. Our team is called the Reference Data and Style Guide sector, and our core activity is to promote the standardization of reference data. So, for example, controlled vocabulary, schemas, ontologies, and linguistic resources for the metadata exchange across European institutions, but not only, because we also collaborate with member states, with academia, with businesses, and as well with a lot of technical platforms. We also provide support for the creation, for the maintenance of reference data, and we are actively collaborating within the institutional projects, initiatives, and committees. Our team consists of a variety of profiles. We have linguists, proofreaders, translators, terminologists, for example, but also knowledge managers, librarians. So we also have of this aspect a lot of colleagues, and as well as technical and semantic experts who are helping us to publish and to model the reference data. Then our main mission is to create and publish multilingual controlled vocabularies. They are all available on the EU Vocabularies website, and to provide some related services to all institutions as well as data spaces in the creation and the maintenance of reference data, also the publication and the validation of the controlled vocabularies across various platforms. EU Vocabularies is only one of them, but we are going to explain a bit later some additional platforms and all the related support services. So in the next slide, you can see actually a clarification of what EU Vocabularies is. So EU Vocabularies is first and foremost the website, so the gateway to reference data and the related tools and services. So it's not only the reference data that you can find on the platform, but also the link to some online tools and applications, the releases and the support services, as well as the semantic knowledge base, for example, with some related articles and shared information about what is reference data and how to use it. And the business collections pages, which are some separate pages for related products or initiatives, with some editorial text and description, not only about the data, but also of the related projects. So first of all, this is the short description of the website, but we welcome you to explore on the opita.europa.eu. Then we also host the reference data catalog that includes over 300 semantic assets that are maintained either by the Publications Office or by other institutions. They can be split into different types. So we speak about controlled vocabulary, so authority lists and direct taxonomies, or data models, schemas, and ontologies. So there are different types, and the number is really increasing because we are actively collaborating with institutions and with data spaces as well. And then then in EU Vocabularies, we also mean the set of services that we provide. So as already said, the maintenance and the publication of reference data and the support, training and help desk services. So these are the main types of services that we offer through institutions and data spaces. The first set is the creation and the update of reference data. So if an institution would like to create a new vocabulary, for example, or to update an existing one, or anyone who would like to suggest a new concept or a modification or a new translation to an existing vocabulary, they are welcome to contribute either via the website or via email. And then we can analyze, discuss, approve, and then finally implement this modification in reference data. If we need to create a new vocabulary, we also have the service of providing support in data modeling, because of course then the whole idea of how the data should look like is to be discussed with the stakeholders. But we have our semantic experts who can provide suggestions and also the actual work of the data modeling. Then the next step is the maintenance of reference data that can happen in some collaborative and shared tools, such as Workbench or TIT, for example, where we create the vocabulary and then we provide support and training also for the stakeholders on how to maintain it. So then normally it's the institution or the group of experts who are maintaining and regularly updating the data in Workbench. But of course, we provide the infrastructure, the access, the user management, all the configurations and the upload of data, as well as the training in order to allow them to work in the tools. And then once the data is ready, then we go for the next service, which is the publication. So then we export the data and then we do all the necessary conversions, configurations. And finally, we publish them in the Stellar Semantic Repository, which is the official repository of the Publications Office that hosts not only our vocabularies, but also EU Lex or the official journal or the general publications. So actually every resource that is published by the OP. For doing this, we need to provide persistent identifiers to the data. So this is also one of our services that we can assign some identifiers under the data that are of the EU domain, and to ensure their persistency and their uniqueness. So these will be uniquely available identifiers available on the web. And then the other additional platforms that we publish are Showbook, which we are going to present a bit later. This is a very user-friendly visualization and data browsing tool from the same family of Workbench, and EU Vocabularies, of course. And as already mentioned, along all the other services, we provide also training and support, so everyone is welcome to contact us if they have any questions about reference data, or also for custom needs, such as custom subquery queries, custom forms in Workbench, and so on. So just to start a bit with diving into the matter, what are controlled vocabularies? Now we are going to distinguish a bit between controlled vocabularies and reference data, because controlled vocabularies are standardized and organized terms of a domain. So these are structured arrangements of words and phrases, of labels and definitions. They can be presented either as an alphabetical flat list, or in a specific structure. So it can be a hierarchical structure, and here we are talking about already taxonomies, if they have a broader and narrower relationship, or Tzouvaras, if they also have relationships between the concepts themselves. The main aim of creating controlled vocabularies is to facilitate data exchange and to share data across different platforms and systems. We call them controlled because normally they have a governance board who are agreeing on what should be the structure, what should be the label, what should be the definition. So they are not just random sets of labels put together, but there is actually a control board who can verify the validity of the data and also the uniqueness of the data. And then they become reference data. We call it reference data because they mean actually a reference in one domain. So, for example, our list of countries and territories is indeed a reference because it should be unique and used across all the Commission. It's a corporate reference data asset, and we promote that it's used by all of the systems and not to duplicate the data. So controlled vocabularies and reference data are not the same. One is about really the structure and the other is about the usage and the governance and promotion of the data. But just to explain this a little bit shortly, because during the presentation we are going to use both concepts. So I already mentioned a bit the structure, but if we are speaking about flat lists, alphabetical lists of concepts, then these are authority lists or code lists. Authority as then expressed is this authoritative source and the governance of the values. And then the hierarchical classifications can be taxonomies. If they have also relationships between the concepts, they are Tzouvaras. And then the most formal representation are the ontologies that are expressing the relationships between the classes and the instances in one domain. Just a little bit about the topics of what we offer and what is available in the catalog. We can start from the authority tables, which are actually not tables but authority lists. And the main domains can be very general, such as the list of currencies or honorifics or languages, or they can be geographical. I already mentioned the countries and territories, which is one of our main assets, but also the continents or the places. They can be in the legal domain, for example, events or laws or subdivisions. We have a lot of authority lists that are used in the ontologies as well and in the legal websites. Or procurement related used for the tenders on the TED website. Here as well you can see a few examples, but we are going to speak about the procurement data space as well a bit later. And then publication related for the general publications. And the number is again increasing. Over 200 authority tables are available on the website. About the other semantic assets, we already mentioned the taxonomies that are in a hierarchical structure, and below in the box you can see a few examples of the taxonomies. The biggest group is the Eurostat statistical classifications that we are publishing and updating regularly, or the European Learning Model, which is published by DG Employment, and the taxonomies that belong to that, so Tzouvaras or ELM. Eurocyborg, which is the science taxonomy used in the Corpus website, or the cybersecurity taxonomy, and of course a lot of others. Here under the links in the presentation, when you will have it available, you can browse and explore all the taxonomies that are available. Then the Tzouvaras, the biggest example is EuroVoc, which is our main thesaurus, governed by an interinstitutional committee. And is used in libraries, also in national parliaments, for example, and a lot of websites. So in EU Flags or the general publications are also classifying the data according to EuroVoc concepts. The Digital Europa Thesaurus is published by Digicom and is classifying the data on the Europa.eu website. And here we also need to mention the bias vocabulary. We are going to speak about that a bit in details later on, which is indeed one of the core vocabularies of the cultural heritage datasets. Then the ontologies, so the most formal representations of knowledge. Here again, I listed a few of them that are going to be mentioned later, and these are used in the legal data space or in the mobility data space or the cultural heritage and the procurement data space. So these ontologies are indeed the core of the data exchange and the data formalization of the data spaces. And we would like to mention also the application profiles, which describe how a standard is to be applied in a particular domain. And the DCAT AP, I guess a lot of you already heard about the DCAT AP. So this is the application profile for the dataset descriptions on the dataset catalogs, for example, on data.europe.eu. And they have a lot of variants or flavors of DCAT AP because, of course, in every single application or every single, even the national applications or every single domain, they have some variants. And the mobility DCAT AP or the health DCAT AP as well are the core of the data spaces. So here we are going to mention the variety of tools that we offer for the maintenance or of the publication of controlled vocabularies and reference data. Workbench is going to be mentioned a bit later. So Workbench and Showbook are coming from the same family of semantic tools, and one is a shared tool for the maintenance, and the other is for the dissemination and browsing of controlled vocabularies. And then Stellar, the common data repository of the Publications Office, the EU Vocabularies website, and TLT, which is for maintaining and localizing multilingual labels on websites. So Workbench and Showbook, as I already mentioned, are siblings. Workbench is an online editing tool for controlled vocabularies based on semantic technologies, both of them, of course, so on SCOS, RDF, OWR, OnToNex, and so on. And these are designed really for the large-scale multilingual vocabularies, so the Tzouvaras, taxonomies, authority lists. It has a lot of collaborative features, so multiple users can work at the same time and also validate each other's work. And it supports linked data functionalities as well. Showbook, on the other hand, complements Workbench with a user-friendly browsing interface. It's an additional tool for the dissemination of semantic datasets, and it has an enhanced support for alignments, so again, for linked data features. It also has a global search, so you can search in one single field across all of the datasets and all of the content of the reference data. And then the publication platforms are Stellar and EU Vocabularies. So I already mentioned them. Stellar is available via Sparkle endpoint and an API. So it offers machine-readable data. And then on the other hand, for the human-readable data, we have the EU Vocabularies platform. It has several features of browsing and searching and multiple display features, for example, tree view, list view, or table view. So it offers a lot of variety for human-readable access. Additionally, we also mentioned data.europe.eu. We will have a slide also specifically on that, which is the central point of access to European open data. And it hosts datasets themselves. So here you can access a lot of datasets, not only from EU institutions, but as well a lot of member states and national administrations. So now we dive into our next section to explain why EU Vocabularies matters for databases and what are the related services or data that we can provide, or the ongoing collaborations and use cases with databases. So the EU Vocabularies platform provides the semantic infrastructure, which is necessary for the interoperability of data across the European data spaces. So first of all, the core is the controlled vocabularies, which are facilitating to the data standardization, the data access, sharing of data, and the smooth communication and integration and reuse of reference data. So in the next slides, we are going to mention 5 data spaces that we already have some collaborations and use cases. And why is all this is happening? Because if we have the data stored in a central repository that can be queried by machines, then several websites can build upon that to ingest some pipelines and analytic tools to resolve every concept in real time. So there is no need for human intervention to upload of data or conversion of data, but the applications can directly fetch the multilingual labels and concepts and definitions from the website. So the first example will be the legal data space. I don't know if probably some of you attended our previous presentation already targeted the legal data space as well. So we have some more detailed explanations, but here we are just going to mention a few reference data sets that are published for the legal data space. So first of all, the ELI, the European Legislation Identifier, which has three related ontologies: the ELI ontology, the ELI impact ontology, and the draft legislation ontology, which are indeed used to model legislation and also case law, and these are all available and published on EU Vocabularies, along with the EU Vocabulary, which is maintained by our team, and it's used to describe the metadata in the authority tables, but as well used in the legal domain. So we have specific properties used to express the legislation domain. And then we can also mention here the AKM for EU schema, so the Ecomatoso for EU, which is also published on EU Vocabularies, and the reuse of some authority lists. So, for example, the places, corporate bodies, resource types, modification types, and so on, that are all related to the legal domain. These are all to ensure the consistent classification across member states. Then the next is the public procurement data space. Here again, we start with the ontology. So the e-procurement ontology, which is used to map all the data that is used in the public procurement data space. And it's also managed by the Publications Office. We have another team who is dealing with the maintenance of the e-procurement ontology. And it's published on EU Vocabularies as well and in Stellar. Then over 60 code lists that are supporting the creation of the ontology. Also, some others that are published not only by us, but maintained by Eurostat, for example, CPV or not. But we also have the countries and currencies, notice types, and so on, and some others that are created specifically for the public procurement data space. We also have this business collection page, so the separate page that describes the whole project of the procurement data. So you can find the link below, and also the link to the 60 code lists that are either created for them or just reused by the public procurement. The next example is the cultural heritage data space, and here the core vocabulary is the DBIS vocabulary and the DBIS ontology. That are published on in Stellar and on EU Vocabularies, and they provide more or less 700 flagged terms in 5 languages. So it's also maintained by vocabulary with the related definitions and alternative labels. This vocabulary is quite specific because it contains harmful and derogative terms. Because the DBIS tool, which is available on the European website, is going to call these concepts that are maybe introduced in the tool. It will display all the definitions that are coming from the vocabulary, and it will also suggest the inclusive replacements for them. So, of course, every derogative term has an inclusive one, and it's all contained and maintained in the vocabulary. It's also created in Workbench, so we have the collaboration actually with all of these data spaces in Workbench, so we co-maintain the data with them. And then they can add the new terms, the new descriptions, the new alternative labels, and the suggestions that are going to be used by the device. For the mobility data space, the ERA vocabulary or ERA ontology is published on EU Vocabularies. It models transport entities such as rail networks, for example, or rail infrastructure, rail services. And it's also used in the mobility DCAT AP. So the mobility DCAT AP is published on data.europa.eu, and it ensures the consistent metadata structures across the jurisdictions. So here we already have 2 assets. The one is the ontology and the vocabulary, and the other is the application profile for mobility that are published with the Publications Office. And another good use case is the frequency authority table or authority list that includes the list of frequencies such as yearly, hourly, monthly, and so on. And this has been aligned and adapted according to the needs of the mobility data space. and the mobility DKP. To add and to include, for example, the up to 15 minutes or every 15 minutes in the list of concepts. So this has been a quite recent collaboration with the data space. You can also see the link of the table there. And then finally, the health data space. Again, here we need to mention the health DKP, so this specialized DKP profile for the health domain that adds new health-specific properties and controlled vocabularies, and it's also published on the data that are open at EU. And the controlled vocabularies are really the core of the central terminology system of the health HDSI, and also the health data EU platform. So these were a few examples of how we collaborate with data spaces. And in this slide, you can see an overview of the services or of the use cases or of the vocabularies that we provide for the selected data spaces. So either the creation and the maintenance in Workbench that is again done collaboratively with the stakeholders, or the publication in ShowVoc or on EU Vocabularies, or in Stellar, of course, and mainly the use of existing vocabularies that we really promote to use the same reference data sets across all the data spaces to promote interoperability. So now I give the floor to Vassilis for the part on the guide.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aniko. So in this third and last part of the presentation, we will talk about the role of the artificial intelligence in enhancing the content of EU vocabularies and how also this is reflected in the development of the data spaces. Everything that we talk here is about how EU vocabularies connect with the development of data spaces. And we will illustrate the important role of the artificial intelligence, the important role of artificial intelligence in enriching, optimizing our semantic infrastructure. AI is not just a buzzword here. It's a key enabler that helps us scale, maintain, and improve the quality of reference data and control vocabularies across all European data spaces. We will focus on two main technologies that we are using. The first one is semantic tagging, which automatically labels documents with the correct authority table entries, such as from corporate bodies, geographical places, resource types, and so on. And the aim is to reduce manual efforts and ensure consistency. The second, and very important for data spaces and the interoperability in data spaces, is the semantic alignment, which harmonizes different vocabularies and ontologies so that terms mean the same thing, no matter the language and the domain. This alignment is especially critical when multiple data spaces must interoperate seamlessly. By embedding artificial intelligence into our workflows, we transform EU vocabularies from a static repository into a dynamic intelligence service capable of real-time updates, smart suggestions, and continuous learning. This lays the foundation for truly interoperable data sharing across data spaces. Now we will dive deeper into those two technologies that we mentioned before, semantic tagging and semantic alignment. We start with semantic tagging, which is very important in EU vocabularies. The main reason of the existence of EU vocabularies is to tag EU documents. This is currently a manual process that is very, very time-consuming and costly. So what automatic semantic tagging will do, it will tag automatically and detect and link key concepts in EU documents to our controlled vocabularies. There are various technologies that are employed in order to perform semantic tagging. The first and the most important one is the entity recognition that uses machine learning to spot entities like organization, places, legal acts, and other entities, and then matches them to the correct vocabulary URI. The second one is the context-aware disambiguation, which leverages deep learning to resolve ambiguous terms. For instance, distinguish between Paris, the city, and Paris, the name. And then multilingual tagging, which is very crucial in our EU context. AI models tag documents in any of the 24 official EU languages, and then mapping them back to a single unified concept. And finally, it is the validation process. All this, the semantic tagging process is not a fully automatic process, it needs validation, and it's not meant to replace the manual process, it's meant to facilitate the manual process that is currently happening, to speed up this process. And manual validation is something that we cannot avoid because it ensures that the system continuously improves, learning from corrections and feedback provided by our expert linguists and terminologists. All these technologies together and these capabilities drastically reduce manual curation time, which I said that it's something that we want to optimize, improve accuracy, and keep our reference data aligned with the latest content. The second and also very important technology that AI technology that we are using is semantic alignment. Currently, there are many data spaces, as we know, and they are all using their own vocabularies. And this creates interoperability problems and the development of these data spaces. So, alignment algorithms, why they are important? Because they automatically detect equivalent concepts across the different vocabularies that have been built and used on those data spaces, ensuring that the term in one domain matches correctly to its counterpart in another. And what's they identify semantic equivalencies, recognizing that, for example, a term award notice in procurement means the same thing as contract award in another schema. So it maps different same terms that may exist either in the same data space, but also in different data spaces. It supports dynamic mapping, allowing vocabularies to evolve as new domains emerge or definition change. So it's not just to align different vocabularies, but also supports the dynamic evolvement of vocabularies, so finding new terms and so on. And this is especially critical in multilingual data spaces like the legal or the cultural heritage. Actually, most of the data spaces are multilingual, but some of them they are a bit more, where precise translations and concept matches are non-negotiable. So a real-world example, again, for the public procurement data space, is that AI-supported alignment has automatically mapped more than 60 nudge code lists to the e-procurement ontology. That is something that has been automatically done, and streamlines metadata integration across member states. Also, middleware platforms such as Simple, which we will show in the coming slides, leverage these mappings to enable smooth cross-sector data transactions in data spaces like health, legal, procurement, and cultural heritage data space. Now, coming to something also very important related to AI, is that we want to use AI, but effective AI needs also effective training. We cannot have effective training without having high-quality training data sets. And that starts with it. To ensure our semantic tagging and alignment models perform reliably across domains and languages, we follow a process, a rigorous data preparation pipeline, which includes the following steps. First is the data selection. We gather raw data covering all relevant sectors, from the legal, from the procurement, from the cultural heritage, and other domains, in all the 24 EU languages. Then we use the expert annotation, which is something that we have experts and editors in our office, domain specialists in general, that manually tag and validate portions of the data using our EU vocabularies, creating golden data sets. And how we use these golden data sets in order to benchmark the different AI tools. There are different tools, existing tools, that we can use. It's not only the ones that we are building in the office, but there are different tools in other EU institutions, from universities, companies, and so on, that we are interested to use them for semantic typing and alignment in other processes, AI processes that we want to incorporate. So, but in order to find the best one and the one that meets the criteria for our data and our processes, we need to perform a benchmarking to find the best one. So, first, we create a golden sample, an annotated data set, as we also call it in research terms, and then we apply benchmarking. We evaluate the AI outputs against these reference sets. We are measuring the precision, the recall, and overall the alignment accuracy. This is all done using this golden data set. With this process, we can choose the right tool for the right process. Of course, this is an iterative refinement process. Feedback loops with human experts allow us to continuously refine both data sets and the AI models. This is a human in the loop approach, which guarantees that our AI tools not only scale, but also maintain the highest standards of semantic fidelity. Now we will move on to the two main pillars of the development of the data spaces. The first one is the Simple, and the second one is the Data Space Support Center. Simple is an open source, smart and secure middleware platform that supports data access and interoperability among European data spaces. So, Simple acts as the data interchange layer across multiple data spaces, and it will rely on EU vocabularies in order to ensure shared meaning. We have seen in the recent presentation of the first draft of Simple Open that a user, in order to be able to use the Simple platform, needs to go through some forms in order to register in the Simple Open platform. And this form has to use controlled vocabulary URIs for concepts like organization, address, legal acts, and procurement notices. These terms will come from the EU Vocabularies platform. It will use our URIs in order to be interoperable. It will also have to use the CAT AP variants, first the CAT AP and then the CAT AP variants, such as the health CAT AP and the mobility CAT AP, to standardize metadata structure across sectors. What will happen if they don't use EU vocabularies and the CAT AP variants? Without the EU vocabularies, simply would face semantic mismatches. Different data spaces might interpret the same term differently, leading to failed data exchanges or inconsistent analytics. By embedding the authoritative vocabulary, simply guarantees reliable, interoperable data flows. And then the second pillar, important for the development of the data spaces, is the Data Space Support Center. The Data Space Support Center aims to accelerate the formation of the European data spaces. It will define common requirements and establish best practices to accelerate the creation of the data spaces. So the Data Space Support Center, with the help of the Publications Office, and in particular the EU Vocabularies, will guide data space and in integrating semantic assets. Key services include: first is the semantic interoperability guidelines. The Data Space Support Center will advise how to embed authority tables and ontologies into data models and metadata schemas. The second is the blueprint alignment, where as Data Space Support Center interoperability blueprint evolves, we update the EU vocabularies to reflect the latest standards and best practices, ensuring future-proof and compatibility. And finally, workshops and trainings, joint events such as webinars and sessions as the ENDORSE conference promote hands-on adoption of semantic models and raise awareness of reference data benefits. Together, these efforts build a community of practice around semantic interoperability, driving consistent metadata practices across all European data spaces. And finally, the last slide of this third part is the importance of the data.europa.eu. Nico already mentioned it a lot. It serves as the central discovery portal and governance hub for all open data, but also for semantic models. It hosts also the CAT-AP and some variants of the CAT-AP. It is a central access and governance governed by the Publications Office, and data.europa.eu underpins the European data spaces with robust infrastructure and policy frameworks. It's a unified discovery portal. Users can search, can harvest data sets from EU institutions, but also from member states, down to regional and local administrators, through a single interface, eliminating fragmentation. And finally, something that is an undergone task, the semantic model registry, where we will host a comprehensive registry of semantic assets contributed by member states. So each member state has produced a number of vocabularies, models, ontologies, and so on. This will be a centralized hub where all these ontologies, core schemas, the CAT-AP profiles will be hosted, each served via persistent URIs. The registry will ensure every data space can access, reuse models contributed by those member states, and completing the loop from creation and AI-enhanced maintenance to broad discovery and governance. And now we will give the floor again to Aniko.
Yes, so for the common actions and initiatives, we are collaborating with the Interoperable Europe in the organization of the ENDORSE conference, which is going to take place in October in Brussels on the 8th and 9th of October. So it will be a presential conference, and you can find all the details on the website. And then related to this, we are organizing this series of warm-up events to warm up to ENDORSE, and we are hosting a few webinars, 5 webinars around data spaces. So it's also in the framework of ENDORSE, but as between the conferences, the big conferences that are only biennial, we would like to keep actually the momentum and to share the knowledge also in smaller webinars and smaller presentations. We have a series of follow-up events that in this case we are going to call warm-up events, and they are taking place in the spring. So they already started in April and they will be until June. So we are organizing this with the colleagues from Interoperable Europe. So this is the second session on data spaces and EU vocabularies. And anyway, we are co-organizing a series of workshops and webinars in the topic of interoperability and reference data, and as well the support in data spaces that was already well described before. And here is the planning of the warm-up sessions of ENDORSE. So the first one already took place in April with some selected data spaces. Get to know the data spaces, then this is the second session, and then the next one is going to be on the 23rd of May, and it will describe how SEMIC assets support semantic interoperability in data spaces. And then 2 more to come about the data space support center and Simple. So stay tuned. We will share in all the networks all the dates and the details of how to join. So finally, thank you very much all for your attention and for your participation. You can see here the useful links, so the website, the mailboxes where you can contact us, as well as our email addresses. And now I think we are open to questions. Okay, so we have one hand raised, Alice.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you, Aniko and Vassilis, for this really information-rich presentation. Out of your experience, what is one, or not, if not the most important, one important challenge that you have faced in semantic tagging and semantic alignment out of your experience? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, in semantic tagging and semantic alignment, like I said, this is something that we started quite recently. The reason that we started this to employ an AI service for automatically tagging for automatically tagging is that it's a manual process. So the reason of the existence of the EU vocabularies is to tag EU documents. So EU vocabularies is used by Eurolex. EU vocabularies is used by the cataloging team. It's used by many by many other EU institutions. And this is a manual process. It takes quite a lot of time. So a challenge that we faced is that we tested different tools. So they are all very much context dependent. So depending on the context, a different tool has to be used. And also we realized that this cannot be an automatic process, a fully automatic process. So we cannot avoid validation, and we don't want also to avoid validation. We have to make sure that we don't want to replace the experts in the manual tagging. We want to help them. We want them to have a tool to speed up this process, to propose them some tags quickly, and then the experts to either accept or reject these tags. And we have to find the proper tools. And it's not one tool for all the authority tables and all the different use cases. So a different tool would be used for Eurolex, and a different training also has to be used for Eurolex, and a different training will be used and tools will be used for the cataloging team. So these are the main challenges, to select the best tool. That is the reason that we started creating a corpus and a golden data set in order to benchmark the different tools. So there are many companies that are willing to provide tools, and the universities and some in-house tools, but we cannot find the best one unless we create a representative corpus that we can then benchmark these tools and find the best one that meets the criteria for the use case and the process. So there cannot be just one tool, and this process cannot be fully automatic. A human has to be in the loop, or the expert has to be in the loop in order to choose the right tool.
And I can comment a little bit on the semantic alignment part. I think the main challenge that we are facing is the evolvement of or the evolution of the vocabularies, of the single vocabularies, because maybe years ago we created the alignment between two vocabularies, and then of course they have been updated, they created new versions, maybe there are some labels that are changed, and of course new concepts added. So it means that regularly we should reassess the existing alignment. That is again a manual work. Of course, we have tools that support this, but still we need to redo regularly. So just recently we discussed that, okay, we should take this on board, but then with which version of the vocabularies, and we also need to align the foreseen publication dates and the release dates of the vocabularies in order to find the best timing to create this realignment. But again, this is, even though there are some tools that support this, there is still a manual work to be done, as well as the collaboration, because then it should be validated by both parties. So the managers of both vocabularies should verify that the mappings are valid, or maybe suggest others. So really, we cannot really avoid the human work from both sides. Thank you. Okay, are there any more questions or comments in the chat? I'm scrolling. You can raise your hand, or you can simply start talking if you have any questions. No, if no, then thank you very, very much for the participation. And I will stop the recording now. And yeah, let's see each other for the next sessions on the data spaces and in this series of ENDORSE format sessions. Thank you very much.